okay, I might get kicked out of here any minute, but finally the video loads for me about the comments video, the one that caused the professor to say, hey, this is racism, I don't want to engage with you anymore, and etc. And so finally it loaded for me, and I think the professor made a mistake and he assumed the beginning of it. He wasn't listening very carefully, and he assumed the beginning of it when Gary said darkies and stuff like that. And Gary was satiring the first commenter, and he said he actually used some shocking language, and that might have been when the professor had kind of reeled a little bit, and then the next breath when he said darkies wasn't really separating that, you know what I mean? And I think maybe you guys understand that, and that's why there's a flood of comments trying to pin the professor down, like, what is it that you saw there? But I am to the part where he's on my comment, and I need to explain my comment. I'm talking to the Professor Anton, all right? My opinion is not in the comment. So I'm talking to the Professor Anton, and we're talking about ambiguity, if it exists or not if you can make decisions or not. This is the whole thing. Up until this point, I mean, Gary's just talking about how he's making it sound like the professor's position is, oh, nobody knows anything, and or that all the commenters feel the same way. Oh, stick a rat in grandma's nose, it's okay. So that's a total, I guess, what we call straw man. I mean, who is making the case for this stuff? And he wouldn't allow somebody else to make a video where they mischaracterize and overstate the other person's position, or completely misstate the other person's position continually, and then make fun of it. How would Gary tolerate that? But yet he's doing that. I mean, I would challenge him to find something that Professor Anton has said that made it sound like you can't live your life, or that everything's okay and nobody really knows. That's not what's going on. And in my comment, the thing is that when I assumed the professor was making just an argument about ambiguity in a general sense, and that as we go through life we have to disambiguate things continually, and that's why I hated his examples, because he acted like, he kind of changed course. He acted like, oh, you can't make a decision. If somebody's on the side of the road, do you help them or not? And it really sounded like you thought the professor thought that was a moral dilemma. No. He's saying that different people look at that differently, and it's ambiguous. It doesn't mean that there's not a right or wrong choice. But I just hated that, because I knew it's just, those are charged examples. And then he's saying that culture creates ambiguity. But we can still determine right or wrong and have a set criteria to disambiguate. But so there's this, like I said in the beginning, there's two different conversations going on here. But yeah, no, I mean, my comment wasn't to, right. I mean, I totally get how he took my comment, and that's not, it's not how it was supposed to, So, yeah, I was not making the case for you can't decide. And when I said those things are very unambiguous to Gary, I'm trying to avoid the other conversation of me saying those things are not ambiguous, and then somebody saying, well, they are, you have to disambiguate them, regardless of your value system. You know, I'm avoiding one conversation, then having to have another one. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm writing it from the point of view of being in the middle. And no, I did love the video but hated the examples. I like the video for a lot of reasons. And then I said, the point is made, because I didn't want him to think I didn't get the point of the video. I said, yeah, the point is made that these things are fleeing from ambiguity. If you, or a better thing, if you deny that you're having to disambiguate that situation, you're fleeing from that. Or, but the examples he gave cause a moral outrage. So if anybody does take a moral position opposite of that, you'd be like, what is the matter with you? But the point is that you're still disambiguating things. So that's why I hated the examples, because it gets us into these conversations, you know. But then the conversely, the other side of the spectrum is when he talks about your navel is part of something, and I'm cringing at the navel. I'm like, don't talk about the navel. Stop with the navel stuff. So, yeah, these are hard conversations to have. And it's just about ambiguity. It's not about the fact that you can't make moral choices. These are two different conversations. That's why it's just so irritating. But my comment was not to side with the fact that you can't do that. Or you can make moral decisions all the time, and some of them are harder than others. There's a spectrum, and that's why when Gary uses all this hyperbole about grandma's got a rod up her nose, what is the point of that hyperbole? Okay, that's my question. What is the point of that hyperbole? How is that going to help anybody continue on their quest for moral truth? Those examples are easy. So, just a train wreck. But I'm kind of behind. I mean, so the video just loaded for me. But the reason I am responding is because he did mention my name, and actually it froze up right in the middle when he was talking, so I didn't get to hear the end of it. But I think that he took my comment the wrong way. It's a diplomatic comment, but it is in no way suggesting that I don't carry the same opinion. Dogs are not food. I mean, not only that, but you want to get into cultures that prepare dog. Do you know what they do to those dogs? I mean, it's one of the worst examples of culture run amok you have ever. And people within the cultures of the countries that do this, there are lots of people that are outraged by it. And I could do an entire video called Boshintang about the South Korean dog eating. This isn't a matter of humane slaughter of dogs really quick and then cooking their meat up. This is a really tragic situation. The way they get this Boshintang, it is sick. All right. So yeah, I mean, people in South Korea that eat meat, they wouldn't. A lot of them are just like Boshintang. No, that is immoral. The same way we would view a lot of people in the U.S. view veal, you know. But yeah, two different conversations, and I like the concrete stuff. It's probably why I'm a fundie. You know, I like the yes or no, and this is right and this is wrong, and etc. So I am still with the reality bites camp. Whether I'm allowed to go to meetings or not, they can't kick me out because it's a public place and I get to click play, right? But just I'm just speaking like theoretically. But yeah, I'm still a reality bites Book of Job woman, and you know. But the fact is that life is full of ambiguity, and it's then to get really into the conversation, you have to use a bunch of terminology that's over my head, and so I have to learn new terminologies. And Trick is starting me on that path because he's using these terms all the time. I look them up on Wiki and I get a headache, you know. I'm not really the dumbest person that ever lived, but it does matter who I stand next to in the lineup, you know. I'm somewhere in between Paris Hilton and Albert Einstein, somewhere in there. So, but I got to learn some new terminologies. Then we get into talking about knowledge, but there's some psychology behind how much what am I trying to say here? If you really... Oh, you know what? It froze up before... It froze up before he got to the scared animal comment. Yeah, I was kind of happy when the professor said You sound like a scared animal running from ambiguity. First of all, I think it's natural to be like a scared animal in this world that we're living in and wanting to disambiguate and feeling really sensitive about that. But I also feel like you need to know that you're doing that. I mean, stop acting like, I don't know. Our decisions are based on that. Sometimes it is a point of weakness and not a point of strength, even if it's right. If that makes any sense. So yeah, and the reason I say scared, the reason I was happy he called him a scared animal is because he acts so terrible to people sometimes. That's why. And he feels that he has to do that for some ridiculous moral stand that's non-existent. That's why. So yeah, I was a little snipey about that and happy the professor said something. This has gone on 11 minutes. Bye-bye.